This limitation that people can see with their physical eyes has not brought a stop to the ambitions and the visions and the purpose that the Lord brought me to this world to do. I will keep on keeping on. I'll focus on God. Though I'm local, but I believe I'm a global woman. My name is Favor Fanis, and this is my story.
Just like the psalmist said, children are a heritage from the Lord. They are indeed a reward from Him. The joy of beholding a newborn child is inexpressible. But what do you do if your reward comes in a different package? Fanny's favor, a third born in a family of 9, opens up on some of the childhood adversities she faced due to a birth defect that changed how everyone perceived her.
I was born with clubbed feet, and this thing was not easy for my parents. It was heavy, but my parents did try. They took me to Kenyatta, to hospital. At least they thought that maybe if I'll be plastered, then my legs will be rectified, because I was born with clubbed feet. Unfortunately, it never happened. So my father told my mother, God has blessed us with a wonderful child, because they were saying when I was born, I was looking very beautiful, but now the legs were the challenge. So they opted, let them just live with me the way it is. Now that the legs could not be straightened with plastering, so they accepted me to live the way I am. So I lived like that until when it reached my baptismal time. I was raised up in a Catholic family. So my father was McGrath Tom. He was our parish father in Webuye parish, that is Catholic Church. So when I went for baptism, the father realized my legs and told my parents, hey, this girl of yours is so beautiful, but now these legs, let us wait for her to grow. Then when she grows, now I'll talk to her and convince her, because my parents by then now, they said they just did not want to take me for operation now that plasters did not work. So they wanted me to live the way I am. But as I was growing up with this disability, I used to have a lot of challenges because I could not get shoes to wear. So most of the time, I would not go to school because walking was a challenge. You know, these ordinary shoemakers will try and make for me shoes. Then maybe after some times, because I was walking like this, you will realize I would develop wounds so oftenly, and with a lot of fungal infections. So I would really spend most of the time at home. But God still remained faithful. Despite that, I will still perform well. So Father said, I will wait for this beautiful girl to grow. When she grows up, I'll talk to her. So when I was going to class 7, now he came to our primary school. I went to Webuye primary school, that is in Bungoma County. He came and convinced me. Then I saw the sense. He told me the flying doctor services are coming into Kenya, and he feels this is the right opportunity for me to be taken, because they don't charge a lot of money and they are there to help us.
Elated about the procedure that would see her lead a normal life, Fannis was prepared for the surgery, and their parish priest drove her to the hospital.
So I was so happy. I knew my legs would just get so well so fast in 2 weeks. For me, it was a miracle. Then I said I will go back to school. You know, students have been calling me Kiwete, Kiwete. In fact, the Kiswahili word is so stigmatizing. Iko na unyanyapa sana. Then I just said, at least after 2 weeks, everything will be well. 2 weeks turned into 2.5 years. I was bedridden because I remember my mother telling me, when I went into the operation room for the right leg, it took 8 hours. The left leg took 13 hours. So you see, I went in the operation room on Tuesday for the right leg, on Wednesday for the left. So she wondered, this one, why is my daughter not coming? She went and knocked the door of theater, went inside and said, where is my daughter? Is she still alive? Then they promised him the leg. You know, it was so complicated, the left leg. Even currently, when you look at the left leg, it appears still not very straight, but I appreciate God because I can walk. So another thing that happened, my legs now developed very sore wounds, difficult to get healed. And that is part of the reason why I had to stay in the hospital for long, because now, one, it meant that all the wounds were to be healed. Every place that we operated on was to be healed before now I begin walking afresh. So that means I was bedridden, lying on the bed with my legs tied to a rail on top. Yeah, because one, doctors were very keen for me not to affect the whole leg. My mother had just given birth to her last born brother, who is also currently now a teacher of English and literature, because he says I'm his mentor, and also a pastor like myself in Winners Chapel, Kilifi. So I remained in the hospital alone. And you know, Nyabondo, with our home, where we were brought up in Webuye, because my father was working in Webuye and paper mills, it was quite a distance. So I just remained alone in the hospital. And I thank God that thing has really helped me to be very independent. Yeah, I would only pray. My father would come once in a while. My mother, I think my mother came like twice, because now you see I also had small siblings, so I could understand her. So after the 2.5 years now, anyway, before that, I remember I was only taken out of the bed, but with a lot of instruction from the doctors to go to Russia Hospital. You see, Nyabon, and the road was rough road. By then, no, it was not really quite developed. So I had to go for X-ray in Russia Hospital in Kisumu, which is very far from Nyabondo. That is when my legs were brought down twice, because now they had to check with the X-ray if everything was well. Yeah. What I can remember about myself is like, you know, the way your skin turns. It's not that you become ile light skin, ile afra, but orangish like this, because I'd really lacked sun. I remember I used to tell myself, God, when you will just make me to walk, I will be sitting in the sun. I will be so happy. I used to really admire.
Alone in the hospital, Fannis witnessed lots of traumatizing episodes that changed her perspective towards God and life in general.
In the bed where I was lying, of course, the other bed, and then they bring in different patients. I remember so many people died. Somebody comes in with malaria, they succumb, they die. Cancer, they succumb, they die. But I just saw I was alive. It's only the pain of the leg. Then slowly by slowly I began contemplating otherwise about God. These white people, they are friendly. I remember one, she came in and called herself a Chieng. And then that is a Luo name, because the hospital was based in Luo Nyanza. So she would tell me, you will be a professor. I used to tell myself, these people are joking with me, a professor. And I've missed school for 2 good years.
2 years in the hospital, Fannis had lost quite a lot in her studies, but her health was rapidly improving.
On that bed, you cannot study anything. With the pain, you can. I was not studying. I was just there waiting for my healing or my death, because I had given up. I began doing the physiotherapy. One thing that I can remember is the first day that I stood after 2.5 years, I cried. The pain is still in my head, because it was not easy to stand again, but God gave me the grace. So I did like only 1 step and refused to stand again. At least now they could remove the plaster. Then they now gave me the calipered shoes, plus now the crutches. But before that, I used to move in wheelchair. When I go for the practices for the physiotherapy, I was being pushed in wheelchair. So after that, now with time, with more practice with the physiotherapy, I could now walk with crutches with my plaster, but not for long distance. Just a little bit, then you rest. Then I continued. Then it reached a place now, my parents and Father Thomas said, now this young girl, days are really moving. 3 years, the friends have already moved on. Will she really go back to school? Like me, I just said I knew I would not go back to school, and the way I used to really love reading. So God did me a miracle. What actually happened is now I got the strength in my legs. So they changed now. They gave me calipered shoes. Then from the calipered shoes, they also now said, let's now put elbows. You know, when you begin working with elbows, it means that at least now your legs are becoming stronger because you do not actually need a lot of energy from the shoulder. So I did that by God's grace, and then I began walking. So I had to go back home.
The transformation fascinated everyone in her family and neighborhood, and nothing could hold her back from achieving her dreams.
There were two options: either I go to Lugulu boarding or I remain in the same primary school where I used to, and it was quite a distance from our home. So what happened, I just went to Ebuye SC, but I want to say, after the operation, I don't want to say that I am bright or I could actually be on the know how I used to do well, but just the grace of God. Because I remember I really missed school because of the pains. I was not supposed, the instructions of the flying doctors, I should not step on the dew in the morning, because the moment I stepped, I would actually be in pain. I should not be rained on. Every night I have to ensure that I bandage my legs and raise them. So I would collect all the cushions of the sofa set and then raise my legs. It was not easy. But I thank God for my father, Anyango, and my mama, Joanne. They were there to really support me. But I had also wonderful friends in my childhood who would just come, help me carry the bag. When my crutches would get stuck on the mat, they would help me pull it. Others will wait for me, even if we are rained on. You know, sometimes friends will catch up with us between the school and our home. They would just wait for me and be rained on, like Mary Wanjiku, Grace Wangoi, Julius Oyaro, my own siblings. And then, you know, they had also a ton of lunches. Some of my colleague pupils would go home, wanangangana tani, mimi ndo napelekea Fanisi leo lunch mamboka, because if I go school in the morning, I will not manage to go for lunch and then come back.
Despite the favor and the love she was accorded by her family and friends, Fanis also faced stigma and negative stereotypes from the society.
So there's those children who used to call me Kiwete. Then even before I went for operation, I was the deputy head girl, and I'm harsh, and I am a disciplinarian. So they would feel so bad. So they would call me Kiwete, wewe tutakupiga kwa reli hizo miguu zako zinyoroke na mawe. Unatukazia sana hapa shuleni. But it is well, you know, we were also growing. So, but it was very hurting. I would take it ile positively by God's grace, but it was really hurting. So it continued like that. I really went through a lot. Like people would say, you want, like now referring to my family. Which family do you want? That family of that Kiwete girl, you know, like that. Even my siblings, they were stigmatized. It's like they were feeling, hey, it's just Ambona in the whole estate with only us who was a sister, who was a challenge.
This stereotyping threw Fanis into the well of despair.
I would feel like nimeachwa tu hivyo na Mungu. God did not like me. I contemplated suicide and attempted suicide. It was not easy, but God's grace was sufficient. So when like I've said, when I came back to school, most of the time I would just remain at home. But I thank God for my primary school teachers. They believed in me by God's grace. So they would even bring for me mock exams at home. You know, those days we used to do like mock for Bungoma district. Imagine I would still become #1, and I never, even, there is nothing I fear like mathematics, but I still score the highest. And then I said, maybe the Most High God is in me. Why is all this happening? I'm not going to school, and even this mathematics that is the most challenging thing in my life, I'm now scoring after the operation, I'm now scoring well. Then I said, this God is awesome. I want to understand him more. Then I began understanding this God, because now I'm not going to school and I'm doing well. And you know, this is the best thing I really wanted in my life, just being a scholar. I used to tell my father when I was in class 7, one day, you know, during our president's time, the late president, His Excellency Moi, alikuwa nenda kwa my universities, he was the vice chancellor. So he would go like, Doctor of Philosophy, then mention the name of that candidate. I used to tell my father, don't worry, even if my leg is like this, one day I will have the PhD and I will also be called like that. But I was saying, will these things really happen? So I just thank God, because it was not easy. The challenges were so many, but Mungu akanipatia neema. So there is a day I told myself, now I was working with elbows, with the caliper. I told my mother, you see this store where we keep charcoal, you know the way home mko tu hivi, it was an asset, but they had also built for us a small store. So we used to store our charcoal there. I told my mother, tomorrow when I wake up in the morning, I will give you these elbows. We are going to hide them behind those sacks of charcoal. There were so many sacks of charcoal. I don't want these elbows again. I must walk. I will remain with the calipered shoes. I don't want elbow. I must walk. God just gave me the faith. I put them there. It was not even easy to stand. I stood, walked like maybe I made like 3 steps, fell down. It was painful, but I went on like that.
Her faith and determination to rewrite her story pushed her to break the limits and barriers in her way. Now a high school principal, a wife, a mother, and a gospel minister, how did Fannis achieve all these milestones? Be sure to find out after this short break.
FamilyNews.Today provides an escape room from the clutter through our podcasts, from church escapades,
get disappointed with God, and I think it's a misplaced anger,
to daily devotionals.
The beauty about God's love is that it was focused on all that God had.
To financial and life tips, bedtime stories for your child. All these and much more available just for you on FamilyNews.Today on Spotify, Google Podcast, and SoundCloud. Insights at your fingertips.
We are our minds, and Fannis understood this phrase by placing dreams and aspirations in front of her limitations. She completed primary school, and her performance took her to a prestigious high school.
I was called to Bunyore Girls, where I achieved a B. Then later on, I was called to the University of Nairobi, where I did my bachelor's in education, arts, English literature.
Life was pretty smooth for Fannis, as she had accepted herself as a precious jewel in the eye of the Lord. This was until an encounter that shattered her heart into pieces.
My fiancé in the university, but he used to really love me. But the mother refused me because of the disability. That's also by there another point that really made me to feel like, surely, how can I lose this person that I love like this? Because the mother-in-law refused. Alimwambia to his son, yani kwa hii dunia mzima, everywhere you've gone, this is the kind of person you are bringing to me. Yeah. But sina chuki na yeye because he's a great friend of mine and the Lord bless him.
This did not deter her from her goals, and in March 2005, Fannis graduated, landing her first job.
When I came into Malindi, I was a BOM teacher. After working in a private school, I became a BOM teacher in Malindi High School. Then later on, in 2008, January, I was employed by TSC, so I got a school called Kakoneni Girls. So I decided, let me preach to these students so that they may know God. So katika hiyo harakati, imagine, I had only finished 3 years in my employment as a TSC teacher. Then a servant of God who was also a principal, was the principal of a school called Kombeni Girls. It is in Rabai sub-county. So wakawa natafuta deputy. So wakawa wanauliza, there is another young girl who tunamwona kwa active KSCF, analead watoto wanafunzi waombe, anashughulika, anaitwa nani? That's how God located me from Kakoneni to become a deputy of an extra county school. Yeah, I had not even finished the 4th year. Then I became the deputy of Kombeni Girls. So when I went there, I was the CU patron and the deputy. And I used to serve God dedicatedly. Then now that is how God raised me to become the principal in 2016 of Moi Girls Kazonzo.
She was at the apex of her career when love came calling.
When I met my husband, it was not easy for me to accept. Because the first time I mwambia, unaweza kuwa kama yule mwingine ama ni vipi ama nikienda huko kwenyu. No, I just wanted to live alone. I realized God had given me a good person, so I thank God.
Despite the doctor's report for her not to carry a load, Fannis, like the Hebrew women, is blessed with 3 beautiful children.
all the children I've given birth to, and they are not less than weighing, when wakizaliwa tu hivi nikiwazaa 3.9, 4.5 kg.
While still serving in her church, God ushered her into another ministry.
So I thank God for my husband. We would pray and fast and then pray, God, ponya dunia from this tauni ya kelele, COVID-19. Kumbe the more we were praying, the more now God was releasing everything. So I began like that. Then now I said, in my phone record, I've recorded 100 songs. Could God be speaking to me about the story of the talents? If he gives you one, you sit with it. Atachukua peane mwingine. 5 you add, you get 10. So I said, let me just begin working on this. Why? Then I told my husband, I'm beginning this journey of singing, and I know my voice is not in the keyboard, but the songs are coming. So I was introduced by one of my parents who used to come and ask for permission for the daughter called Shekina. She's also a great singer in Coast. I went to record. So I said, let me contact this reverend. He accepted and connected me to the audio producer, Abs Records. He's based in Bamburi. By God's grace, by favor, he came to school. The first song, it's on YouTube, You Alone, You Alone. I recorded from 9 p.m. Inafika 3 p.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, ndio nyimbo imeshika. Sijui kusema you alone, you know, now on the key. Niseme tu you alone, naenda nikiharibu. So imagine, nikaanza jani ya one song, saying I have 22 albums recorded. And by there, like almost 500 songs that I have not recorded. Then we are working on the 3rd album video. The same time, I've also written 6 books. I've already finished. It's now publication. Yeah. So I've already launched one. Over 1,001 wisdom herbs. Those are wisdom quotes with verses to help Christians read the word of God, because it's the easiest way. You cannot be a Christian and then you lack the word. If you have the word, then your life will be very successful.
But how does she balance all her responsibilities?
I do most of the things deep in the night. Yeah, like singing, audios, I do them in the night. Like maybe from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning with my producer. Then like these videos with my director, Robert Fix, we do mostly over the weekends.
She does so many things at the same time. In fact, sometimes I ask her, when do you rest? Because she's a very busy person, but she always finds time for everything that she gives herself out to. She's always present in the ministry because she's a reverend. She's always present in the school, in the work, because she's the principal. She's always present. She never misses out in class because she's doing her PhD. Sometimes you wonder how she balances all these things. I have learned so much from her that disability is not inability.
Fannis acknowledges that her humility has allowed God to lift her up despite her adversities.
You see, like even when you come to the school there, you will not believe I'm the principal. Nobody ever believes. I can go to the door, people are seated out there, many of them are, good morning. Wengine hawataki kujibu. Then I ask them, how can you be helped? Wengine hawataki kuongea. In fact, most of them don't even want to talk. We want the principal. Naambia, let me hear what you want so that the principal can help you. They still don't believe. Those who are few, those who have believed, see, I've come and talked to you outside here. Mi naenda kwa ofisi, naenda kule. Sasa ndo nataka kwanza kuscramble kwa secret. They want to go and see the people. When they come in, you are the principal.
Fannis attributes her success to the grace God has given her, her faith and resilience through the different phases of life.
Then one thing that I purposed, I always like to walk with my children. Wherever I go shooting, I'm always with them. We do what I'm doing, we do with them. And it is true. Like, they have all recorded. My daughter has 2 songs. The other 2 wonderful boys also have an album each. You know, God Nai is a very great father and very interesting. If you are a hard worker, he blesses the work of your hands. That's how now God has landed the Kibali Awards in my hands. I'm so humble. I prayed and I dedicated the award back to him because he deserves all the glory and honor. But at the same time, I want to thank all my supporters, my followers, people who came out in numbers to vote for me and to believe in the ministry God has given me. After my father was telling me in the morning, hey, my daughter, everything your hand touches to do is blessed. Because I've learned Matthew 6:33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness. I love him all. I just love underlining the word all. All these things are added unto me. So, when I was growing up, when we would go for PE, because I would not play, I would sit on the grass and plait. So I learned plaiting. When I was in the university, I was never broke, not a single day. Because why? If I'm not in the library, I'm in the fellowship. If not in the fellowship, I'm in my room doing twisting or plaiting, getting money.
And how about her prescribed type of shoe?
I'm supposed to be wearing calipered shoes. Though you see, with the time when your legs get healed, I went to a fundi and then came up with this design and said, I want a kind of shoes where it's soft. Because I just said, I'm healed, I want to wear like other people. So that in my mind, I don't keep kujihurumia, I'm still having a big challenge. So I went to him, we agreed, nitengenezee kiatu na huku chini uweke kitu yenye ni ngumu hivi the way it is, so that at least when I also wear shoes, I feel like all is well, and I believe all is well, so that I can move on with life.
Fannis is a true testament that no person is limited and disability is not inability. And to any parent whose bundle of joy came with birth defects,
be like my father Frederick Anyango and my mother Joanne. If God blesses you with a child who is able differently, I want to assure you that is a goal you have in your house. It doesn't matter whether it's a mental challenge, physical challenge like my own, or any visual impairment, or any other kind of disability. People who are able differently are multi-talented. So it's you to come out, take your child to school. There are so many schools who can cater for different needs. Let them go to school, and then you will eat of the good of the land God has given you. So don't listen to anyone. You see, most of the time, 1 Thessalonians 4:11 inasema ya kwamba we should mind our own business. Don't mind about other people's businesses. So I want to encourage my parents outside there. Don't mind about the businesses of others. Mind about the business that God has brought you to this world to do. When God gave you a child who is able differently, he had a reason, and he knew that you have the capability and the grace to do it. So do it wholeheartedly, and you will eat the fruits thereof. If you are outside there and you have been born with a disability, don't give up. Have hope in God. Be very patient and wait for God. Your time is coming. Don't compare yourself with any other person. For example, if you cannot walk, thank God all the time that at least you are alive. There are people who are walking and they are dead. There are people who are walking and they cannot do the things you are doing. So look for the positive things that God has done in your life, and then appreciate God. Then he will now open for you greater avenues to release the blessing that he has in your life. Kindly have hope in God. Doesn't matter what you are going through. Maybe it's not just a disability that is seen, but maybe it's a challenge you are going through. Do not give up. Have hope in God, because he's a God of all possibilities. So keep working, keep trusting in God. Never let your faith die. That is my encouragement to you. And my parting shot is, please, if you are a Christian, hold on to God and give your all to God. God will pay you back in great rewards.
we hope Fannis's story has inspired you. If you have a story you would like to share with us, kindly text us on 20316 or WhatsApp on 0786 316 316 and we will get back to you.